Zegama Beach Records is in full swing this summer as they recently released Animal Faces on 12-inch, Falling with Scissors on cassette, and Islet's third pressing of The Devil Shining Out Your Eyes on 12-inch. Today is Zampler Day with the 23rd installment of this decade-long compilation series releasing for free on Bandcamp, featuring new art by Seb of Meth and Virgin Mother, which also houses 30 tracks including brand new songs from Senza, One Way Mirror, Hallam Foe, and Tresselude. I also highly recommend checking out Smush, the Vancouver-based heavy shoegaze band that recently released If You Were Here, I'd Be Home Now on Canadave's Soft Seed label. The 12 inches are up for pre-order now. Hello, and welcome to Everything Remade, a podcast that I hope is about growth as much as it is about music. I'm Edie Quinn, and we have a great show lined up for you today. Before we get started, though, I'd like to remind you about our Patreon page at patreon.com/humanmachine, where you can join up to support the show and read free zines, get music sneak peeks, and lots more. That's patreon.com/humanmachine. And now, I'd like to play something for you. You're hearing Marionette by Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead, featuring my new pal Jens Ulrich on guitar and vocals. The song comes from their demo 7-inch, which you can buy from No Funeral, Dancing Rabbit, or Cremation Records, based on your location.
I was probably 9 or 10 years old, and for my birthday, my dad took me to. We drove to Tacoma. We drove to the city, and he took me to go see Green Day, Jimmy Eat World, and Blink-182. So this big show, and I was like 9 or 10 at the time. So I think like before that, I had never seen anyone play music. At least that I can remember. I had heard music, like this type of music from like playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and that kind of stuff. But that was the first time that I went and I saw oh, okay, like these people are like, this is that music, but people are actually playing it. And there's this whole, sort of culture around that as well. And I think, I think seeing that really inspired me to want to play music myself. And then it was also sort of I guess like a opening the door or stepping stone towards a lot more bands that branch out from there.
Yeah. Now, that had to be a really big show. That had to be like tens of thousands of people, right? So like,
yeah.
What was that like? Like, were you overwhelmed at all? Or was it just like, this is like what I see on TV, but this is real?
Yeah, I think, maybe a little bit of the latter. Because it was, like you said, these are these huge bands, and this was in 2002, so this was like, peak time for them, I think. So, but yeah, I think, more of the latter. Just like seeing that in person was so exciting to me. But yeah, like obviously very different than what we do now.
Yeah. So let me ask you, like, is your dad pretty cool then? Like, your dad took you to a pretty cool show. Like, for context, my dad only ever took me to one show, and it was like Cinderella and Winger. And I think Bullet Boys played that show also. It was this wild like hair rock like show. So like, does your dad like Is your dad sort of like an old punk, or like was it just like these are the hip bands, or what's the story?
Yeah, I guess I would say more of the latter in terms of, uh, I think my parents weren't necessarily super musical or like not playing instruments or anything like that. More so just like, um, this like seems like a really like cool, fun thing that I think you would enjoy.
Yeah.
Um, and, uh, and yeah, and that's not a thing that like happened super regularly because I grew up in a more rural area, so it was like it's quite an ordeal to like go to the city or whatever. But there were definitely like other times where like they took us to go to Warp Tour or whatever, um, uh, like through the years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does your dad ever come to any of your shows now?
Ooh, they've not been to any of our shows now. They being my parents.
Uh-huh.
We don't live super close. So
Oh,
I
okay.
live in Vancouver now, um, but I moved up here in 2016. Um, so um, so yeah, we're not living in the same city or anything like that.
Right. But when you were younger, like and you were first getting started in bands,
Mhm.
did your parents show up at like a house party you played or stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, I actually didn't super get started in terms of playing in bands until quite a bit later. Probably in only like a year or two before I moved to Vancouver. Um, so in that sense, that I think that opportunity never really cropped up.
Okay. But are
Yeah,
they aware of your like has your dad ever listened?
yeah, yeah. I think
It didn't
I
go
think
well.
well, I think like coming from like I think they can get into like Green Day and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
But I think in terms of more screamo or heavier oriented music, I think it's not that they don't support it. I think they're just more confused, or
Yeah,
if
yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean the trope, like it'd be great if it weren't for all the screaming, is a trope for a reason, you know? It's like it really is something that happens a lot. But yeah, you're kind of just like at some point you're kind of just like, "Oh, well, check out this one part with these like really clean like pretty guitars that are happening," and you'll dig that and then just turn it off real fast when the distortion
Yeah.
kicks in. Um, yeah.
Yeah. I think maybe that's a good in next time. Like I think on the like for example on the demo there's a more like ambient section of one song. Like
The
maybe
third
start them
track,
on
right?
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, that's
Um,
that's yeah, when you and I first started chatting, or if it was you that I was chatting with initially in the band, I'm not sure if it was someone else or if it was you.
I think probably Kyle, but
Okay, so
yeah.
when Kyle and I were first chatting, and we started talking about various things, which we won't get into.
Mhm,
We'll keep some things under wraps. But
mhm,
when we started chatting about stuff, uh, I was texting our drummer Jason at the same time, and I'm like,
mhm.
they did this fucking thing in the third song on their demo that I've been trying to do for like 13 years, and I feel like I've only pulled it off to like varying degrees of success, and they come out like third song they ever record and just rip it and just nail it, and I'm like, God damn it. But
Oh, I think I'm curious. What is the specific
well,
thing
I
that you
mean,
mean about it?
it's like it's hard to explain, I guess, right? But you
Uh-huh.
have the very simple guitar,
Mhm.
right? And it just builds and it weaves, and
Yeah,
there's the climax, or in some cases like the anticlimax,
yeah.
depending on how you look at it. And I just thought that when that happens in that track, it was just like it was chef's kiss, and it's like I don't know if y'all feel that way or not. I don't know if y'all are put yourselves in the same boat that I put myself in, where it's like, damn, we almost had it, or if you're like, nope, case closed, we did it. Um, it's like
Yeah.
as a musician, it's like that's the thing, right? It's like
Uh,
you're done with it because you're done, and then maybe later you're like, oh, but what if? And
Hmm.
so you end up exploring those ideas again in a different way,
Yeah, yeah. I think for myself, I'm a well. It's nice to hear. Thanks for saying that. But
Of
yeah,
course.
I think for myself, I feel like I'm often a bit of a perfectionist. So I have a hard time like I feel like it's never quite there, and I have a hard time just being like just letting it go and being
Hmm.
like this is what it is, and hopefully it's good enough.
Yeah.
And that's actually a thing that we do a lot is like we just keep revisiting the songs often and just like let's. I think as a group we're often like very not uh, super solid in our decisions. Like solid in terms of like we're always really open to just like changing things and keeping it like we don't play the song the same way every single time.
Oh yeah.
Um, just like we're gonna practice and like like the drummer's gonna try this um, different thing at this part and just do that for when we play it at this show. And then next time it's gonna be a different. Um, so yeah, um,
Yeah, it's
yeah, it is.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
But for sure, I mean, like, it's 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 hmm, it's different. Like, like a lot of times when we play, I will have to play two guitar parts in one guitar, so it's
Mm,
like it's different. Like, and I'll change what I'll change like based on what I feel was working from the last time to the next time, So it's like,
mhm.
um, but like you're talking about more of an evolution, so to speak. And yeah, I think that's really cool. But like to go back about like when you're saying like it's hard for you to to sort of come to a final decision about something. Do you ever feel like that stands in the way of you just like flat out like writing
Mm.
songs like or is it just like you'll go with something until later the decision will be made?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've gotten a lot better at not needing things to like get to a certain particular endpoint, and um, yeah, just letting when things feel right, like the song
Hmm.
is done,
Hmm.
or done in terms of like when we're going to record something because that's like a um, like a static form of the song,
Hmm.
um, for example. Um, but after that, like I'm just yeah, I think it's just kind of fun to like I think we have to come to a certain point for recording songs. But beyond that, it's kind of fun to just always keep being like, what if we did this a little bit different? Uh, and yeah, like you said, kind of just always keep everything sort of evolving um, based on yeah, just how we feel and just like having fun with
Yeah.
playing songs.
Yeah.
um, it gets a little boring to play something the same way over and over again for 10 different shows.
Sure. Yeah, it's weird like when when I was a teenager and we were driving a couple hours to go see some band, play a show or
Mm,
whatever. Um then I was always like, "Oh, that's a little different than the album," And I was like put off
mm,
by that in some weird way.
mm,
And then it's like, you know, later it's just like, yeah, I mean, like there's a lot of reasons why a band could have just been like, I don't want to play that way anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
like, I mean, in bigger bands' cases, it could have been like they could have had a producer that was like, "Why don't we try it this way?" And it seemed like it was fun at the time, and it went down on the album, and then they were just like, "That sucked." I don't want to do that. So yeah, I don't know. Um, I mean, I obviously like that's a case of like, I mean, a lot of it's like when you're a teenager and you're obsessed over something and you're listening to it and you're looking at the J cards and you're like blah 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 and you go to the show and it's like there's some kind of you know especially like when you're a teenager and all these different hormones are pumping through your body and you're like this was a betrayal on the um, but like then later you're just like nah, it's just people just like exploring their shit, through art, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I asked that question, and it may have seemed like an accusation almost, like, does this keep you from writing songs? And the reason why I ask some of these questions is because, like, I've had this experience in my life, and I want to see
Mm,
how, like, different people react to
mm,
those possibilities, and like, because there was a time when I was obsessed with, like, ideas coming, like, so organically, right?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like not finishing songs.
Uh-huh.
And I was like miserable. I was just like, I was obsessed with, like, the next part being
Mm,
as magical as the last part or whatever. And, like, when I look back at those songs, I'm like, they're like, I love those songs, but I'm like, ain't a part of this magical. It was just stuff that I was coming up
uh,
with, just like anything else, and
uh-huh.
to be like, to spend 2 years, like, writing 5 songs or 6 songs, or whatever, like,
Yeah.
because of an idea,
Mm,
like, that these things should come to you, like some, muse from yonder window or whatever nonsense, like, was ridiculous. And obviously the other things
yeah.
were going on, in my brain at that times, to where, you know um like, it wasn't just like writing music that was difficult, but, like, it's yeah, I had to come to a point where it's like, yeah, just like,
Yeah.
just write the next part and
Mm,
put it there. And, like, eventually it's almost just like you forget that you made it happen. And it's just like, I mean, after a while, whatever happened just becomes what happened. And it's not because it had to, or because, like, yeah, I don't even remember, like, there's only a handful of times when I can actually remember, like, oh, I was kind of stuck on something and I just made something. I forced it to go there,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and I guess what this make me think of is like I think one of the things I really like about this particular band right now is like I feel like we're all pretty open to just like getting rid of songs or ideas if they're not working out. Like usually the way that we do our songwriting process is usually either Kyle or sometimes I will kind of like bring a song idea, and I think everyone's pretty open to being like let's just like try playing it, and then if it doesn't work, like we don't have to force it to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just like not like we can just cut it, or like maybe we're trying to figure out like this how do we like this one riff of the song just doesn't like this is not perfect, but then that actually like sort of forces us to think about like maybe it's just not really necessary in the song.
Mm-hmm.
um and it I think all of our like collective willingness to just like not be too beholden to a starting like the starting idea makes that whole process a lot easier about just like letting things go, and like um sometimes you do have really good ideas and you can continue to tweak those to be perfect or like moving towards perfect.
Yeah.
um but other times you have an idea and like it's maybe not the right fit, and that's like okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
um yeah.
Yeah. Um, it's kind of just when you start getting, like, super, super precious about one specific thing that you sort of get into trouble, right? Because you're like,
Hmm.
you're, you can't write your way around it, but you're like, oh, I just can't let it go either.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for
And,
sure.
um, I don't, like, that's when it helps to, like, it helps me anyway to have, like, other things to, like, okay, like, this, like, I'm stuck on this, whatever, this, like, sort of metally sound, I'm like, I'm doing this project and it's sort of metally sounding and I'm sort of stuck on this one thing. So I'll just,
Mm,
like, go and screw around with that, like, like emo album that I've been doing or whatever, and it's like a palate cleanser. But, like, um otherwise it's like, I don't know, like go for a walk or something. Like
Yeah.
get it out of your head for a little bit, cuz like
Yeah.
yeah, definitely like can just um it's I don't know, there was one song in particular at the sort of beginning of Coma Regalia in particular
Mm.
where it was like I was just like I was just like stuck on this one thing, and then like I was stuck on it for so long that I just like that's the only one that I can remember. I was like, yeah, I was just like, you know what? Either either you're just gonna be like, no, I'm never gonna use that first part, or you're just gonna you're just gonna make a Frankenstein's monster out of it and see
Yeah.
what happens. And I think the result was pretty fun. It was pretty interesting, and I sort of don't mind doing that with a lot of projects. I revel in it almost, like I just enjoy it. Like just like, oh, that doesn't make any sense, you know. But for Coma Regalia, I don't know. I feel differently sometimes. Like I get back to that sort of like it should feel more organic thing, which is, I mean, it's ludicrous because like we got like we've recorded like 250 songs. Like no
Mm.
one's listening to all that shit. Like who cares? Like yeah, like I personally enjoy every song we've recorded to varying degrees. You know, I don't think there's any one of them in there, even the one that I like least like the least or whatever. Like I don't think
Mm.
it's like bad, but like um nobody's listening to all that. Don't worry about it if there's a, you know, if there's something in there that's not, you know. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Did you did you ever have an experience where like you recorded a song and then well, I guess I'm not sure how different your recording is, but like where you record a song and then afterwards you just were not happy with it, so you held it back, or have you like gotten to the point where once you have the songs ready to record, then you record them and then they pretty much all always go forward with getting released?
One time we were ready to record, and you know, I was just learning to play to click and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and and the guitar player at the time, you know, was like, yeah, we should try that. You know, we should try like recording to the click. And we recorded to the click. We went through the entire thing, got all the way to
Oh.
the vocals, and I was like, this is shit. Like this is not, this is boring regalia. This is like not, there's nothing about this that sounds like spontaneous to me. It
Uh-huh.
sounds just like it was like the Muzak version of Coma Regalia. And I was
Yeah.
like, nope. And I just like, because like at that time, mostly what we did was I recorded the drums like with no one else
Mm-hmm.
around. Like I just recorded the drums like to memory. And
Mm-hmm.
then I would put one guitar track down, and then the guitar player at the time, who's my friend Mark, rest in peace, Mark. He would come in, and it was just like it was so nice for him to like already have a guitar in the other speaker, you know, to like
Mm-hmm.
do his part. And
Yeah.
so like yeah, we went through the whole thing, and there was the, you know, I might even still have them somewhere, but I hope I don't. And it got all the way to the vocals, and they were just bad. And then I was just like, it was literally like I was like in my basement. I was trying to record the vocals. I was like, this
Mm-hmm.
is bullshit. And I
Mm-hmm.
just like set the drums up, and set the mics up on the drums and just recorded the drums and the guitars like that same day. And I was like, yeah, Mark, we got to do it again. And and Mark was like, um, like, yeah, this is better, basically at that point. And that was pretty early for us. So like, I never tried to do Coma to a Click again. And I don't think there's
Yeah.
any other like, yeah, we're doing this again. But in one of my projects, I demoed out 3 songs, and then I was like, I finished like an album because I just had these 3 songs. Then I
Mm.
finished writing an album, and I really liked the demo of those 3 songs. Like I liked the way they sounded, but I was like, I should just do the whole album all at once, and I was never able to make like
Mm.
the re-recorded versions of those 3 songs. Like they just didn't have the same like oomph or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I just like mixed the album to sound like that,
Yeah.
and it worked. So yeah.
Yeah. No, it's all interesting. Yeah, I guess like the reason I asked is like for us for this yeah, like we just recorded a bunch of songs, and like doing the vocals, I always do them in the jam space when we're practicing, and I'm also playing an instrument, so like I've never really heard what it sounds like until we get. So it's like it's kind of a scary or intimidating thing to then like you only really hear what it sounds like until you have the record, like you've done the recording. So yeah, it's just it's an interesting thing, like in terms of going from that space of like, at least for the instruments, I feel like I have a good feel for what everything will sound like. But when you're in a practice space and the vocals are kind of get lost in the jam space room, it's so hard to know or have an idea of like how that last piece will fit in and what the songs will sound like, and then yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, like mixing can do like so much to your vocals that like you might not be ready for either. Like,
Mm-hmm.
which is just like a whole, like that is a whole conversation, It's just like
Mm-hmm.
so for like, and I mean, I'm not sure if you're also wearing like hearing protection. This is like
Mm-hmm.
this is me interjecting right now and talking to the audience, breaking that wall that you should be wearing hearing protection at all your shows and at your practices. But so like if you are wearing hearing protection, then sometimes that's like when you're recording vocals, that's like literally the first time that you're hearing your vocals like that way too, like where it's
Yeah.
not like the way that you hear them inside your skull with these pieces of plastic stuck in your ears,
Mm-hmm.
like, so there's a million reasons why you're like, it when it starts coming out of your mouth and you hear it the way it actually is for the first time, you're like, I don't know what to do like to make this sound how I think it's supposed to, or the way it normally sounds to me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's,
And sorry.
yeah, no, it's just really weird. And I mean, if you're recording with someone, like they may like be recording you with some like active effects like
Mm-hmm.
on your vocals automatically.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a thing there where it's like if they have a little bit of compression on your vocals, if they have a little bit of reverb on your vocals, there's a thing there where you're like, what's happening?
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's might be super subtle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, yeah, there's a million like weird, like just like vibes you might get, like where you're like, personally, I record the vocals completely dry, and then I have a
Mm-hmm.
channel right underneath them with
Mm-hmm.
like sort of like my like the effects that I'll sort of usually apply, which is like a little bit of this sort of grain delay, and then which I actually didn't even start doing that until like um, I don't know. Like I was not I was only putting just a little bit of compression and then reverb like until like Marked, which was in like 2020 that came out.
Mm.
Like
Hmm.
um but so I'll record them totally dry and then I'll put them in there. And
Yeah.
it's like then I'm like okay, that's a good take or not. Because like
Yeah.
doing them totally dry, sometimes you're like ooh, this one little bit like sort of falters in volume or whatever. And that's like you might like I mean I've like I'm not going to name names, but I've had someone who sent me files and they were essentially telling me that they kept doing this until they fried their voice. And I'm like, you don't need to do that. And literally anybody is going to put the smallest bit of compression on your voice. And
Uh-huh.
this little dip in volume is going to be normalized or whatever. And
Uh-huh.
like, and they were like, what? And I'm like, yeah, don't do that again. Like, don't torture yourself over like, you know, so that's what I
Yeah.
find that really useful for is like, because you get the dry where you're like, where you're really like, you can sort of be like, yeah, like I like the way that sounds. Like I got all the inflections and the nuances out of that like
Hmm.
performance, you know, or whatever you want to call it. And then you can put it in the thing and make sure that it works with what you're doing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's how we ended up doing it. Like fortunately, yeah, our friend has done all of our recordings for us, and he like knows his way around all of this stuff much better than I do. But yeah, I think that's kind of how we did it. But like, still, nonetheless, it's like since this is really the first time, and I've done a lot of vocals, it's just like such an unfamiliar and um, kind of shocking feeling to listen back to it,
Mm-hmm.
um, or to do it in the room without the instruments.
Yeah. Did
Uh,
everyone have a good time like where it's like you're in the room just screaming and nobody can hear any music except if they have headphones on or something like
yeah,
was that an
yeah,
unnerving
exactly.
experience?
I think maybe a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think I remember them like on the day that we were all there, because I did it the last bit I did in like 2 different days. They're like, oh, like don't hurt yourself, or like sound like an actual ghoul. uh,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
when I
it's
first
good
started
stuff.
doing that and like I'm like in this thing and my cousin was in the band and my cousin's like, "Oh, this shit is hilarious. It's so funny. We can sing there." And I had to get like the engineer like got like a blanket and put it over the window so no one could
Mm.
see me. And then like he turned on this like he was like, "Okay, I'm going to turn on this red light in here so it's going to be like real dark and no one can
Uh-huh.
see you and it's fine." And there was just this red light and so like for a long time like I actually had this like little red light even when I was recording myself and I would put it on just for like, you know, to make me
Uh-huh.
feel like oh, okay, I'm
A little
good. Like
comfort.
yeah, you're here, you know, you got this. But yeah,
Yeah. Uh, yeah.
it's
On the
funny.
second,
It's a lot of first experiences and like um the way different people deal with them is it's interesting.
yeah, yeah. On the second day that we went back to do this, there was. I think you can definitely hear outside of the room where we were doing it. It's like the space is like above a little auto shop kind of thing.
Mm.
But there was a big windstorm while we were doing it, so I was kind of like, "This is good. No one else will hear what's going on in here." um,
And also you
uh,
might get some cool like effects in your, you know, if it's too loud, like
yeah, I was kind of wondering about that. I don't think they did come through, but
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like once your voice is hitting that microphone's gonna bleep everything else out. But like something might come in here and there,
yeah,
like when you're not,
Mhm.
depending on how the engineer, like if they cut everything or what kind of, noise. But
Yeah.
yeah, the place that I was just talking about, the other thing is, this guy was recording in the basement of his like family home, and he had like three children and his wife
Mhm.
upstairs the whole time. And um, this particular first experience was really funny too, because like I got to, like, I think it was like a 10-song CD. And it's literally like the ninth song on the CD where I just like belt out like this one, like, or whatever. And the guy comes through the speaker and he was like, well, shit, you actually can sing. And I was like, what? and I, and I was like, I don't know if I was supposed to take that as a compliment or like everything I did until now was trash, like,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, it was like it ended. I mean, we recorded with that guy like 4 or 5 times, in different projects of mine recorded with that guy too. So like, we obviously had a good experience, but it was funny.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Yeah. Um, so yeah, separately from the drive your plow stuff, my friend had been making some black metal songs, and it was like, well, this is Kyle who plays guitar in the band, and he was like, "Oh, come over and sing on this part of the track." So went over to his house to like, yeah, to shriek for a little bit, and I was like, "Are you sure it's okay? Like, do your neighbors don't, or like your upstairs neighbors don't care?" He's like, "No, no, no, they're gone." Um, and then like I finished, and then I walked outside, and like as I was walking out, he like opened the door and was walking out also to like go into the garden, and I just like give him a little awkward wave. um, like I didn't know you were here. I promise
um,
everything's okay downstairs.
yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah. I it's It's interesting. Like I've heard like all kinds of like people tucking themselves into closets and stuff to do recordings and like and like getting like oh yes, we had to go into this closet where we put like um basically like futons in this
mm,
closet to block off the sound and blah blah blah. And like this, my friend's in there and she's like, and then like a bug fell like right onto my head while I was doing this track, and whatever, like all kinds of weird shit. But um,
uh-huh.
what was it about this project in particular that, because you said you'd never really done that? Like, what was it
Mm,
about this project where you were like, nah, I want to do vocals in this band?
mm. Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I originally, Kyle and I, Kyle plays guitar, we had, like Kyle and I have been friends since I kind of moved to Vancouver, and we've been talking about trying to do a screamo band for quite a while. We are like, oh, like one of us can play guitar and one can play bass, and we'll just figure out the rest from there. And yeah, once we found Miffy who's playing the drums, like um, I was like, okay, well, I guess one of us has to do vocals, and so yeah, kind of just gave it a try, um, and it worked out from there. So I kept doing it, and uh, yeah, I had done like a little bit of vocals in the past, um, but not in more screamy kind of bands, more like emo, generally like emo punk type of music, and just doing like a little bit of backing vocals, so not um, nothing like super major. So it
Hmm.
was definitely new.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, I don't know anything about y'all have kind of a mysterious vibe going as far as like the info that's on your Bandcamp and stuff like that's like
mm,
kind of non-existent. So like um, what are like some of the other projects that you or other folks in the band have been a part of that people can check out? Like if there's anything
yeah,
y'all would point somebody to.
yeah. I mean, I guess maybe the biggest one is probably not me, but Kyle. When I moved here, Kyle was playing in Dad Thighs. If you know of this
Oh
band,
yeah, they were sick.
so Kyle played guitar in that band, and I think like when I moved here, I think that was definitely probably the band that I was like this makes me really want to like keep playing music, and play like emo or screamo music. And like Kyle had been really welcoming to me in terms of just like inviting me to shows and like hanging out with me at those kind of things. And so he was playing in that band. They ended up ending, and some of those members are in Emma Goldman now, if you know this band, and which is like another really cool screamo band from Vancouver. But then, yeah, Kyle and I played in another band before this that was more like a shoegazy type of band. It was called Sea Blush.
Okay.
And then before that, I played, in more like, I played in more like emo punk kind of band called Duck. But there's not really, we just were playing like local shows. There's not really anything recorded for that. So I mean, through that, like Kyle and I had been like talking over years, like we should do a screamo band eventually, because we were both really into it. So, and then kind of like after pandemic time, or like after the start of COVID, that's kind of when we kind of tried more seriously to actually do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say that, like, that the band came together like pretty naturally then, like y'all having so much like in common as far as like what you were interested in and stuff, like, or was it a minute for you to personally like sort of get adjusted to different styles? Or
Yeah, I mean, I think pretty naturally, and like Kyle and I live one block over from each other, so we see each other all the time, and we talk about music all the time, and we kind of have quite similar interests. But the reason that we actually connected with Miffy is because they were living upstairs in my house, like my upstairs neighbor. Um, and I had an Obrea Sky t-shirt from when they came here, like 2016 or so, 2017.
Nice.
And they were like, Obrea Sky. I used to work with someone in that, in that band back in Edmonton or whatever. I was like, oh, I guess you know about screamo music. And then I had known that they played drums already, but like weren't actively playing drums. So I was like, do you have any interest in coming to play drums with us? Because it's always so hard to find a drummer. And so it kind of, yeah, I think that connection ended up working out well. And like their background of drumming, and I think music interest is a little bit different and more broad than screamo music. Like I think they kind of came to drumming from doing a lot of like blues and jazz type music. But I think that actually works quite well for making music that is maybe more interesting by like sort of coming to screamo music from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the approach is gonna be uh, a little, it might even be subtly so, but it would be just like novel in a way that is not typical or whatever. I mean,
Mhm.
there's one of my favorite albums. I mean, I guess two. Um, uh, the first two albums by this band called Sam I Am, like
Yeah.
their self-titled album and the album Soar. I'm like
Mhm.
90% sure that the drummer who played on those albums was like, it actually, I think it was the same drummer on both albums. It might be a different, but anyway, I'm pretty sure, at least on the first one, that
Uh-huh.
drummer was just in metal bands up to that point,
Uh-huh.
because the way they approached this like this power pop slash emo punk band
Uh-huh.
is so metal, and I'm just like, this fucking record rips, like,
Yeah.
and it would be so different with somebody else behind the kit. It would still be a great album, but like it would be so different. Like it would not hit the same way. It would not be such a unique experience, And
Yeah.
yeah, it's really
I, yeah, it's like it's awesome having someone like coming from like a very strong, like they have their own strong foundation or technical base, but then like trying to approach a different style of music with that. Um, yeah, is Sam is that the same person as Knapsack or?
nah, I think they get, a lot of comparisons, but
Mm,
um
yeah, I don't think I've actually listened to that. I just had some association in my mind with
yeah, I
Knapsack.
the the main guitar player from Sam I Am's been in a couple of like one-off bands, like he was in a band I can't remember the name of, but with like some he was I think there might have been some people from Knapsack in that. I know definitely that the guitar player from Texas is the Reason was in it. Can't remember the name
Mm,
of that band offhand.
mm,
But yeah, it's that association goes around a lot. That's one of those bands where it's like, you know, they're sort of in that Jimmy world, um, like where they evolved over time, and like that evolution has just been like writing like catchier songs, which like
mm,
everybody can be happy to get like a catchier song, but in my opinion, some of the like nuance of the earlier stuff, which was just like weird and sort of like felt outsidery, is like not
mm,
really there anymore, you know? Like,
yeah,
um, I mean, ever since like, Jimmy Eat World, it's like ever since Bleed American, it's like, I feel like when they make an album, you kind of know what you're going to get. And it's like,
mm.
it's cool, but it's like, it's not clarity,
Yeah.
It's like,
It's not Static Prevails.
yeah, it's not Static Prevails. It's not, just, yeah. And Sam I Am's kind of like that. Like you know, when they
Yeah.
came back with this album called Astray, like pretty much every album since then, it's like a power pop album. And there's like a lot less of that, like,
Mhm.
There's certainly no weird metal parts and no like songs about about Ed Grimley or whatever. you know, but
Uh-huh.
um, but yeah, it's that's really cool that there was that Braille Sky connection there. I wonder like who they worked with. Was it Durrell or was it like
I think it was Darrell. I think they
yeah
worked in the kitchen together.
yeah yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I know that a lot of Amy's work like is seems to be like I don't I don't know exactly what I would like how I would perceive what they do, but it's like not
Mm.
it doesn't seem like the kind of places where a lot of like people that would, you know, be living upstairs wearing a band T-shirt. It's
Yeah.
like it feels like it's possibly a little more academic or whatever, like not just like a random person who plays drums above your house.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, but yeah, that's really cool, and like what a that album they put out last year was fucking wild too.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, you know, I got the 7-inch 2 days ago. Thanks
Oh, nice.
so much. That was so sick. Like, um, so the 7-inch just kind of further like makes me like so how deep into this like we're giving you nothing. We're very mysterious. Like the 7-inch, it's I mean it's classic, right?
Mhm.
It's a paper bag, it's stamped, and it's got the label stuff on the back. The
Yeah.
the record label is stamped with the band name. There's nothing
Yeah.
inside. Um, was this was all of this a sort of like we want the music to speak for itself, or was all of this sort of because I mean we're sitting here yapping now like there's nothing mysterious about this, so like
Yeah.
as far as the band goes and what you leave behind in like the digital realm, as far as on your Bandcamp or in the
Uh-huh.
physical when someone owns a record, is that a thing? Is it like we just want this to, or is it just like part of the mystery, or like what are the
Yeah.
decisions that are happening there?
I think I would say two things about it. Like, I guess like that's for me as someone who's kind of shy, that's kind of my personal preference,
Okay.
to kind of like just put the materials out and then you like do it that way.
Hmm.
But it wasn't a super intention. It wasn't super intentional. I think the reason it happened that way for the demo 7-inch is because, we like I said, we just recorded a bunch of songs and we're kind of like looking towards what's next. And we had already put out this, the demo on cassette already.
Right.
Um, but yeah, the different labels had asked us like, like we have an opportunity, like we have an opportunity to make this set of things that are, they're going to be really cheap. We'll do we have the materials to do 200, and we just have like these like craft paper things,
Hmm.
like the envelopes. So it was kind of more of just like, we don't want to put this on, or like we didn't want to wait for it to be a long time to go through like how are we going to design this whole thing. We just happened to, or the label no Funeral, I think he just happened to have the materials for that stuff, and I think the decision was kind of just like, I can make this and do it really basic, and it will be pretty cheap, and it will be quick, if we do it this way.
Hmm.
Because it was kind of like a sort of like a post hoc type of thing. Like we did not originally plan to do this. Um, uh, in that the situation where like when you're recording songs and you want to come out on vinyl, it takes like a long time to go
Hmm.
through all the planning and where is it going to be made, and how are you going to pay for it, like all of that stuff. So
Uh-huh.
it was more just like opportunistic, for that.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I wasn't sure, as far as like the material that the covers were made of. I thought like, did someone just like nab a bunch of grocery bags from their work or something? Which like I've
Hmm.
seen that, like,
Hmm.
and there was this really cool band that that played a show at my house a very long time ago that actually, like, one of them worked at a grocery store, and they were like,
Mhm.
we're gonna screen print some posters for our tour, and so they just like took like an entire bundle of paper
Yeah.
bags from their grocery store and did
Uh-huh.
their posters on that. But yeah,
Yeah, and they also already had for this, like they also are, yeah, I'm not sure if it was just like a big roll of paper that they had or something,
mhm.
but they also already had the print because that's the print was like used for the cassette tapes.
They had the
And
stamper or whatever.
yeah, so like I had originally drawn it, but then someone else made the print. I think it was the guitar player in Basque, but I could be wrong. But I think she made the stamper, and so just they already had it.
Oh, they cut
So it
it
was just like
themselves.
easy. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's awesome.
Um, like I think they just took my drawing and then kind of traced over it
Yeah,
and then cut it.
that's usually the way. Like it's like
Yeah.
when you do like a lino cut or whatever, you trace it and then you
Uh-huh.
like you trace it like backwards and then you like flip it
Yeah.
over and then you like trace the other side of it so that the graphite that you traced on the one side goes onto the cut and then you cut it
Uh-huh.
and then you got the stamp. But yeah, like there's obviously a lot of companies that can just make the stamp for you too, but it's like not anywhere near as cool or fun or
Yeah.
and they can be kind of expensive. Like I mean, you want to get like I used to just have a stamp just with my label logo and like my address on it so I could just stamp it on the package like
Hmm.
instead of writing or having like a tag.
Hmm.
And I mean you can do something like that for like $15, but if you want one that's like, the size of a cassette or whatever, it's probably be 35 or whatever, whereas if you can cut it yourself, you can do it for $5.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I've
it's fun. It's cool.
yeah. No, I've actually recently gotten into making the stamps because I made some for patches and stuff and
Oh, awesome.
yeah, like my wife has all the tools for the cutting and
Have you gotten yourself real good in the hand yet, or
I did,
just
yeah.
fucking hell, right? Yeah,
um,
I mean, I'm sitting there, I'm being so careful, and then I just get myself like right in the finger, and like I don't even know how it happened. It's like it happened like it's like it was the opposite of the like you least expect it thing. It was like I saw it happening and I just couldn't stop it. But boom, right in
yeah.
my finger, like oh shit.
Yeah, the kit came with two band-aids, and it's like, oh, I guess they
No,
put those in
really,
here. But yeah, but
that's
I
amazing.
guess they put it in there for a reason.
Yeah, oh yeah,
um,
yeah. It's like, um, and yeah, I don't know. I just read some books about like woodcut and lino cut and stuff too, and I like, oh my gosh, like I was just like my mind was blown. All this shit
mm,
talking about like, oh yeah, and if you I forget what the technique was called. Like I'm gonna just totally blank on it, but it's like
mm,
you you do you do like half of the cut and then you
mm,
print and then
mm,
you finish the cut and you do it like deeper or whatever and you do a separate color and it's like this is fucking bonkers. Like you did all that for like one print. Like
uh-huh.
cuz you can't do that. You can't like print it twice again cuz you altered, you went past the first print. Like when
Yeah.
you so like you could have done 50 prints like before you did the second part. That'd be the, the big brain way to do it,
Mm,
right?
mm,
But
mm,
like if you're just like I'm going to make a cool print and then it's just like that's you're just like, yeah, okay.
yeah.
I but yeah, I mean printmakers, they don't play. Like that shit is so
Yeah.
much fun. Like
Yeah. No, I've seen the wood cutting too, and I really like looking at the sort of like medieval fantasy style wood cutting
oh
prints,
yeah.
and I would love to get into that someday. I haven't at all, but it seems uh,
It's when
it looks
someone's
really cool. So
yeah. when someone's really good at it, it's like literally like magic.
Yeah.
It's literally like magic, and there's this weird thing too because it's like you like I know enough about I like know just enough about it to where like I can look at somebody who's done one and you're like they're better than me, but they're not a ton better than me, right? And what they did to my eye, that looks fucking sick. But like if I had that same idea in my brain, it would be more exact. And if I didn't get the results, if I got their results for myself, I'd be disappointed. And it's like that's just like that's just like being an artist or whatever, right? Like you can take anything that anybody else does at face value and be like, that's fucking awesome. And then you look at your own stuff, which is probably pretty great to a lot of people, and you're like, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
know,
That's a very relatable feeling.
like I guess, like I only cut myself up trying to do this, no big deal. But yeah. Before we get like in the weeds again entirely, let's
Yeah.
like circle back to like what the band has like coming up and stuff. Like, it's been a little while since the demo, and like, I
Yeah.
know, you're talking about like been working on some songs
Yeah.
since then and stuff. What are like, the current plans, that you can speak of at the moment, like as far as like songs you're writing and shows you're playing and stuff?
Yeah, so I guess as far as like the songs first, we wrote a bunch of songs and we recorded 14
Oh
songs
my.
in April, I think. Yeah, April.
Hell yeah.
But it's 14 songs, but they're by no means epics. They're pretty short. So 13 of those I think we decided are gonna be an album. And I guess, yeah, when we had started writing it, actually this comes back to your podcast because I remember you talking to someone else and they were like, we did 13 songs for the record. And you said something like 13 just feels like a good number to strive for.
Yeah.
And then I kind of just had that in my mind afterwards. I was like, yeah, that's true. 13 seems like a good number to aim for.
Yeah.
So we wrote 13, like we wrote until we had 13 that we were like happy with. But yeah, again, they're pretty short individually. So I think that's like, it's about 18 minutes, I think. And then we did also record one other song that is maybe going to be on a split, but I don't think I can say too much more until that like comes or moves forward. But
Till things start happening.
yeah. So yeah, we recorded that, and it's just we're supposed to get the mix, or like the first pass at the mix back like kind of any day now.
That's awesome.
So I'm excited. I'm really excited to hear it, and from there, I guess we'll start making a plan of what we want to do with it. But
yeah. What's this
go
other
ahead.
song like? Is it an outlier from the rest of them? Like, is it longer or like,
Um,
or are you just
yeah,
like, fuck it, a minute and a half song on a split?
yeah. No, I was like, I think we had written the 13, and we were like, we're gonna do 13, and then someone had asked us like, do you want to like contribute an extra song to this like multi-band split?
Okay.
So I think there's gonna be a bunch of. So we just want to have one extra like original song.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, let's like try to crank out one more song because we were gonna go into record anyways. So we're like, it wouldn't be too hard to like if we're already there to just like do another. And I was like, let's make this one different. Let's make it really long, and it turned out to be 2 minutes. But
yeah, really long. 2 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. Been there.
yeah, I think it does have like a bit of a different feel or flavor to it, but yeah, no, because we did talk about like would it be good to switch this one with any of the songs that we intended for the record, and we kind of decided that it felt like that one did actually end up feeling like the one that was maybe best for being an outlier.
Yeah.
or coming out with something different.
I love that
Um,
whole like we were recording an album, so what's the harm of just recording one more song thing too? Because like we did that when we recorded our ninth album, and
uh-huh.
like our the last song on our ninth album is like 16 minutes long or something, and like let's see, here I got like these notes like on the I got them still on my bass drum from where Jason wrote the notes, and it's like C blast, tom beat, D beat, B B dar crashes in chill, tom build 2, snare ride build 2, da da beat, trash beat, P down,
Mm.
Tom's B down. Like there's like 20 more notes on here, but like um then like we go out there after we record that song, and Jason's like, "Oh fuck yeah, we're done." And I was like, "No." We got remember we told new friends that we'd have that song for their comp, and he's like,
Mm.
all right, but I need like 20 minutes." I'm like, I mean, you can have more than 20 minutes, but
Yeah.
but yeah, it's
Yeah.
that's always fun. It's fun stuff.
Yeah, I think we had actually kind of a similar experience when we went in and recorded the songs. We were like, we finished the last song. We were live recording it, so it's like we did it as a group, and then we finished the 13th song, and then we were like, done. Time to go like eat snacks and whatever, just relax. But and then we were like, I felt bad being the one to raise my hand. um,
um, we
there's
have
still
another commitment. Yeah,
one more.
one more. Yeah.
um,
Um, but yeah, like that's really exciting. I'm really excited to hear that album. Hopefully, I might get to hear it at some point. Pretty soon.
yeah,
That'd be sick. But
yeah.
as far as like shows and stuff go, do y'all have stuff that you've got going on locally, or are you planning any kind of like tours or anything like that? Or
Yeah, so we got a couple things lined up. Like the more immediate is just local stuff. Like actually tomorrow we're playing um like this Vancouver festival. It's a DIY music festival that's just like all kinds of genres. And I think maybe like 30 or so bands, maybe more, maybe 40.
wild.
I don't know. But yeah, I've played it two times before with other bands, so it'll be fun to do again. And it's always interesting to like play a show. It's not going to be other bands that are like us. Um,
Hmm.
I know that for sure. And I think we're playing first, so it's always kind of fun or funny to play our music, and then the next band is more of like an indie rock band kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but it's always it is fun to just like go and play with other bands that are good no matter what music they're playing.
Yeah.
Um, and then we're playing another show in July with I think it's going to be with Terrifying Girls High School, if you know of them,
Yeah, for sure.
and a new band from the islands is coming over. I think they're called Morn Receive, if
Oh,
I'm
that's Dave
pronouncing that
Norman's
correctly.
band.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they're going to come over, and then in August we're going to go over there and play with them in Victoria and Nanaimo, and that's actually the first time that we'll go outside of Vancouver to play a show.
Okay.
So
You
I'm pretty
gotta
excited.
hit up a ferry for that?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
It's
probably
kind of
not the first time you've done that, though, right?
yeah,
Yeah, that's like old
yeah,
hat to you. I didn't like a
yeah.
ferry. We had to do it
No,
in Europe, and I didn't like a ferry at all. No.
yeah. Yeah. Honestly, like being in Vancouver is pretty hard for playing music elsewhere because like that's the closest place to us, and it takes like an hour to drive to the ferry. The ferry's another 2 hours and costs a lot of money, and then it's an hour to drive from the ferry to where we're playing, and it's not like a huge city either. Uh, and then like besides that, I mean, really the next closest thing is
In the States?
yeah, which is pretty, I think, prohibitive for us
Yeah,
playing right now.
that's got to be a
Um,
tricky situation. You got to kind of sort of like buddy up with a band and be like, hey, can we kind of like just show up and use all your stuff kind of thing?
y-
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like the other hard part is like it's not legal. Not like it is okay for US bands to come to the States, but it's not
Right.
legal. Definitely for Canadian bands to come down to
Right.
the
So that's
States,
why you
like
would obviously
reciprocally.
never do that.
Yeah.
Like you would
um
never, obviously you would never just like, you know, like talk to, some band from like Seattle or something and be like, hey, can we show up at your place? And like we're
um
obviously just coming there to like play Xbox for a week. We're
yeah.
not coming to like,
uh,
do anything
yeah, I would
else,
say
like play shows or anything.
yeah,
And
like
use
yeah,
your
I've
guitars and your amps and like we're not gonna like ship you a box of records beforehand or anything like that. We're just gonna show up and play Call of Duty or whatever. Like what's a
yeah.
more American, like can we get a more American game than Call of Duty? I don't know. We could say
I don't
that
think
game.
so.
Yeah, right.
um yeah, I think I could say I've definitely made those trips to go down and play Call of Duty before.
Yeah, yeah,
um
yeah.
but yeah, I think like currently with our situation is like one person in the band is not a citizen in Canada. And I'm actually also not a citizen. I'm a permanent resident in Canada and a citizen of the state. So it's not a problem for me. Um,
Oh, okay.
but if you were to run into trouble, like the worst case scenario, if you're Canadian, is they just tell you you can't come in and you can't come back for 5 years. Um, which I know some people who that's happened to.
So
But yeah, if you're
that's what the Americans would tell Canadians. They'd say you're not coming back for 5 years.
yeah,
Okay.
but if you're not like one of us not being a citizen, like um, the consequences are much more severe, as in like you know getting deported and um,
Like you would get deported from Canada.
yeah, not me, but yeah, our drummer.
Oh, okay. Someone who
And
is
for
a.
me, like yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I've thought about because like my wife is from Canada, and that's like why I'm a permanent resident here now, and I thought about applying for citizenship, but I'm like yeah, like
It's a lot hairier in
yeah,
certain situations than in others.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
But yeah, yeah. I mean, that being said, I think like we're really hoping. I think like when maybe like concurrent with the record coming out, maybe like going to Alberta or maybe down the line, like flying to Ontario and playing, maybe playing a bunch of shows in like Ontario and Quebec could be pretty cool.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, I think in the near term, I think probably yeah, kind of going to other places in Canada first, and then kind of going from there is kind of our
Yeah. I mean, if y'all played New Friends Fest or something, y'all could definitely play some Call of Duty in like Michigan or something like that. I mean, they
yeah.
they got good Call of Duty there in like New
Yeah,
York
so
and
I've heard.
Michigan and um, you know, uh, we'd definitely love uh, to find a place for y'all to play some Call of Duty in Indiana as well. But
Yeah.
but that's all. It's all just down the line. It just depends on what
Yeah.
kind of games we could set up.
Yeah.
But
Maybe some Madden or some that's
yeah,
the
some
football one, I think.
Madden. Yeah, Madden too. I forgot
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah,
Yeah, Madden. Madden 2025 or something.
yeah.
I don't know what number we're on because I have them
I'll just show up
all,
to the border like
obviously.
holding a football and a flag. Maybe they'll wave us in.
Yeah, just just it's like it can be tricky, like it can be tricky because you gotta have the right team
Hmm.
jacket on or whatever, and like if that
Hmm.
team's doing bad, like you gotta really know what you're getting into because like
Hmm.
the Detroit Lions, like I don't know a lot about football, but I have a friend who like it's like the love hate relationship with the
Mm.
Detroit Lions is so strong that I hope that he's not listening, but like I just enjoy the drama of it so much. Like like it's just like if they're doing really bad, it's like the posts are incredible. But
Yeah.
but yeah.
I,
Uh,
I'm not gonna lie. The only team I've looked up recently was the Lions because I remember if you know the band Empire.
uh-huh.
It's like a big fan of them, and I feel like they said like when the Lions win the Super Bowl, they're gonna get back together. Um,
Oh wow.
so I
Like
think
please.
yeah, I think they were close this year. If I if I remember correctly. I could
Yeah.
be wrong. But,
I think they definitely had some kind of resurgence because like I wasn't getting the like drama that I needed from my my friends' posts. I'm like, damn it, they're doing too well. I can tell. And that was my conversation with Jens Ulrich. Thank you so much, Jens, for taking the time to chat with me. I hope y'all enjoyed that chat, even though we had some technical issues and for some reason this pop filter wasn't quite working in the intro. At any rate, don't forget to stop by the Patreon page at patreon.com/humanmachine. And until next time, take care and do good things.